Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, it's been quite a few days since our last news roundup for Diablo 4. We had a bit of a brief vacation, so we have a bit to catch up on today as we continue our extended journey going over all of the happenings in the Diablo 4 community. This past week has had a number of interesting events going on. One first major thing of note is that patch 1.1.3 actually hit the game a few days ago properly. Nothing unexpected happened though, no new patch notes, nothing that was undocumented as far as changes, exactly the same as the ones that were released a few days ahead of time. The patch may not be massive, but the things that it does cover are good, so that's alright then, at least. It's just a bit too little too late at this point for a lot of people. Outside of that then, there was a full developer talk with Chris Wilson, the production director for Diablo 4, and also Rod Ferguson, GM of the franchise as a whole at Blizzard. And given this is a 15-minute discussion, you may well be interested in the highlights of it all without necessarily wanting to watch all of it. Some stuff that is sort of obvious, but now actively has been confirmed within this. In Season 2, which starts mid-October, we are getting vampiric powers, and some of them will be class-specific. As well, there will be more new legendaries and uniques that will be added in the second season. We also have full confirmation that the 5 new bosses being added to the game are in fact the source of specific unique target farming activities, as well as uber-unique farming too. They mentioned beforehand that there would be 5 new bosses and that those bosses wouldn't be locked to the season, but would hit the Eternal Realm as well, so my assumption at that time, based on that, was that it would also be tied to the unique and uber-unique target farming they mentioned, and it seems that that was actually proven correct. So that's good, even though for the most part, the season as a whole looks a bit like a repeat of Season 1 mechanically, but just with more of each of the things, more so than actually feeling like a fully new thing. That said, as far as the more permanent addition of the 5 new bosses, we know this will be a mix of returning bosses from the campaign, but beefed up, as well as some new bosses too, and we found out in this interview actually that you can't just farm the bosses over and over, you can't just fight them on repeat, you actually need to progress through a bit of content to unlock the right to fight the boss each time. So hopefully they really make the drop rates on each one of these properly worth it, or else that will be a bit of an annoyance for sure. Then they bring up an interesting topic, which is all the complaints of a lack of endgame, considering this is the first time at launch that there was any sort of planned activity for players past credits rolling in a Diablo game. Between Helltides, Whispers of the Dead, Nightmare Dungeons, there's actually quite a few things, in their opinion. But the issue is that you get those at level 50 or so, which is less than halfway through the leveling process as far as time goes. Yes, Diablo 3 didn't have any endgame at launch, but it also expected you to play the campaign multiple times on the same character on different difficulties as a way of leveling up to max level, and that was entirely enjoyable in its own right. It was a thing that was fun to do. In Diablo 4, you can't repeat the campaign on one character, and so it literally means that from level 40ish that you get to from pure campaign onwards, up to level 100, you are then engaging in the exact same activities over and over again for the rest of the time you play the game. Yes, there is more to do, but you have made the system a lot more repetitive by portioning it out the way that you have. If this stuff all unlocked in World Tier 4 and then World Tier 3 was just maybe do the campaign again, but it's harder, or you could just farm regular open world stuff or even dungeons, that would probably have worked a lot better for a lot of people as far as flow goes for the game. It would make World Tier 4 feel genuinely special compared to right now, where it's just World Tier 3 but with more XP and gold. It doesn't truly feel like the end of the game, which is what it needs to be, so much as just a victory lap, and that's an issue to me. They mentioned that the 5 new bosses are also meant to pepper that level 50 to 100 range and give you another activity to take part in when leveling through that, so I really hope that those bosses and the mechanics around them actually feel good to engage with, because that does have a chance of making the game feel a bit better if so. We'll have to see how all that works out though. Past this, we have a number of tweets from the developers themselves about the game and what to expect in the near future. The first and probably biggest of these is a double whammy of a response from Adam Fletcher, the Global Community Development Director for all things Diablo, where someone asked him if there are any plans for patch 1.1.4 to happen, or if we won't be getting anything else until closer to Season 2, which we know to be in October. The response here is that there will be 1.1.4, and that they will have more news on Season 2 quite soon. The implications of this, tied with the other information that we have, is that 1.1.4 will likely be in September at the very least, if not one of multiple patches that we'll have during this month, hopefully adding in more quality of life changes, even if it's just a little bit, then bug and performance fixes as well, as much as they can too. But I wouldn't expect any balancing changes to come for the rest of the season from this point forward. As far as the part where he mentions more news on Season 2 soon, we already got confirmation from Rod last week that there would be a deep dive dev stream on Season 2 at the start of October, and I would definitely imagine this tweet from Adam Fletcher isn't referring to that being as soon, so I would expect that we are getting some type of interim news about Season 2, giving us a bunch of bonus info about it sometime over the next few weeks. Past that, we have direct confirmation from the transfer from Season 1 to Season 2 will be a live change. Season 2 does in fact start precisely when Season 1 ends, so there's no actual downtime between the seasons, which is actually a pretty big deal as far as keeping the interesting mechanics around, even if the people playing at the tail end of a season is probably the lowest number that play the season at any point, really. Then we have a really nice confirmation to see though. Someone asked if there will be any new world bosses in the future of the game, and Adam simply replies, yep. The thing is, we don't know what the timeline on this is by any means, of course. He said one word. We could go a year without having a new world boss, but I definitely think they should start adding them in like one per season. It'd just be a nice little bonus, shake things up a little bit, and allow a bit of power creep, because obviously the grand cash that you get from world bosses, you can only have drop once per week per boss. So adding in more bosses means adding in more grand caches per week for every player, and I see no issue with increasing that a steady amount, just slowly over time, as that would just result in more fun in my opinion. More legendaries, more uniques, more fun. Simple as that. Then we have the quite hefty topic to talk about here, which I do bring up a fair bit, but the more things that happen around it, the more it's worth pointing out. This past weekend, two really major things happened with Diablo 4, and both of these are a major indication of a significantly declining player base in a live service game. The first is that the game went on sale, 25% off only 3 months after its release. That is generally not a good sign for it to go on sale so quickly, and it's pretty clear what that says to pretty much everyone. Then on top of that, timed with this sale was a worldwide event within the servers of Diablo 4 where all players got a 25% multiplicative bonus to XP as well as gold gains for the entire weekend. This was actually decent, nothing mind-blowing, but it's fun if you are still actively playing, I suppose. But both of these actions to me show that the developers are sort of just doing whatever they can to get a bit of a bump in the player base at this stage of the season, because it has just been on a steady, rapid decline for quite a while. Here is a graph of interest in Diablo 4 pretty much since release. You can see it going down slowly and steadily with a couple of peaks and returns as well. Then that final spike here is the day that Season 1 released. Then it just drops, and from the look of this graph, interest in Diablo 4 is at about 6% currently of what it was at its peak. 6%! That is such an insane drop-off so quickly in a game that's intended to keep your attention, a game that labels itself as being live service, and the fact that this is still on a downward trend past 6% does not bode well either. We'll have to see how all this changes when Season 2 comes a knockin', but as of the immediate moment, it is definitely fair to say the game is in an incredibly rough patch when it comes to active players, which means future seasons will really have to blow it out of the water to get proper attention on the game once more. And that just about is it as far as news goes for Diablo 4 right now. Nothing particularly crazy going on, just a nice solid week of little bits of news here and there, right? We had the actual release of patch 1.1.3, a nice meaty interview with a couple of developers, then the usual roundup of all the Twitter responses that we've had from the various devs over the last few days as well. Not to mention what I felt was a sort of necessary response to the events that happened surrounding the game this past weekend, being the fact that it went on sale this soon after its initial release, as well as the increased experience in gold game buffs weekend long to entice people into playing more. It's sort of just sad to me that things like this are happening at a time where it feels like an attempt to revive the season after it's dead. Whereas instead, what if they had just done something like just doing that right at the start of the season, like a Mario Kart boost with a well-timed start, just 25% bonus XP for the first weekend of the season, and a sale on the game to get more people into it at the start of the season when all the hype is there. That feels like something that would be actually genuinely good and enjoyable for players. Whereas again, these things happening now in the dead part of Season 1 feels like floundering around just trying to stay treading just above water and avoid drowning. I'm not mad about it, I'm not upset, I'm just disappointed, and I get disappointed by this game a lot, but I guess late is better than never, even for something like this. I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown of the news surrounding Diablo 4 for the last week or so then, and if you are still playing the game, then I hope you enjoy your continued journey within it. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.